Hello, and welcome to another edition of BNEWS In Depth. I'm your host, Rich Hosford. As we begin December, we enter into something unprecedented in all of our lifetimes, a holiday season amidst a pandemic. And while we all want to visit with loved ones, attend religious ceremonies, and hang out with friends, health officials are warning about the spread of COVID-19 and the need for precautions. We also want to spread the holiday joy, and while this is possible, it'll look different this year. To examine the pandemic and the holiday season, we're going to take this show in 3 parts. Up first will be a discussion with health officials about how to stay healthy and safe. We'll also talk with Burlington's Economic Development Director about shopping and dining. And finally, we'll talk to people helping people about helping those less fortunate this holiday season. We have a lot to get to, so let's get started. Okay, I am now joined by Health Director Susan Lumenello and Board of Health Chairman Dr. Ed Weiner. Thank you guys both so much for coming on and spending some time with us today.
You are welcome.
Thank you, Rich.
So, I know there's a lot of people who are having what we call, pandemic fatigue. It's the holiday season. They want to go out. They want to see family. They want to, gather with friends, go to restaurants, do all the things that we normally do during the holidays. But, what would you say, just sort of big picture, that people should have, foremost in mind, as we enter the holiday season?
We're still in the pandemic. We can't be complacent. People are dying. People are getting sick. Our numbers continue to rise. We do have a vaccine in sight, but not for a while. We can't become complacent. We want people to be well. We want people to be safe. We want to visit with our loved ones, and we want to do what we do every single year. But we got to be careful.
And there are safer ways to do those things. So depending upon your situation, maybe you keep to a smaller group. That's the safer way. So there's a safest way, there's a riskier way, and then there's the riskiest way. So on a holiday dinner, what's the safest way for people coming? The safest way would be keep it to your household family members only. A little bit riskier way would be as if you include other households. But if those are households are in your immediate bubble, those are the people that you've been seeing, and you keep it to that. That's a riskier way, but it's still that's the middle path. And then the riskiest way would be to have multiple households at your family. So you have to gauge the type of risk in the activities that you're doing.
And even if you do kind of keep it small, do you recommend that, if people are indoors, they wear masks as much as possible, well, except, maybe when, except for eating, that kind of, precautions?
The Massachusetts Department of Public Health has come up with a number of advisories. And I think we know what they are. I think a lot of it is common sense. Wear a mask. Wash your hands, which is probably one of the most important things to do, and wash them with soap and water regularly, or a soap and water substitute with 70% alcohol or so. We've told people over and over again to stay 6 feet away, and be careful with people who are at high risk. Your elderly, your grandparents, those people who are immunocompromised. We talk about having one person serve food and to use single option utensils. We could go to the limit here and say, have one person add condiments to everybody's food. And I know this is hard, and it's almost unconscionable to think about these types of things, but we have to think about them, especially if we're with our grandparents, with family members who may be sick. We need to be careful, because this pandemic, this COVID-19 virus or disease is not going to go away, and we're seeing a resurgence. This is a time to be with loved ones. We do this every year. This is a time that we look forward to of being together. But I think we have to add to that, for the first time, we need to look forward to doing all of that, but be safe in doing it. And that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, so, you mentioned grandparents. I know, a lot of times people want to visit with relatives that they don't normally see maybe as much, but is that something that we should just, limit ourselves to video chatting with them this year, or phone call, just because, if you see your parents but you don't see your grandparents very often, is it just not worth the risk to them to stop by for a quick visit on Christmas?
Yeah, so that would be the safest option, to give a call or do a video chat or virtual type of gathering, rather than to meet in person. So especially someone who is older, like grandparents, you do want to be extra careful. You want to be extra careful with anyone who's immunocompromised or has other underlying types of conditions that could make COVID worse for them.
And, so as we're taping, this is going to air in December, but as we're taping, it's right before Thanksgiving. We're already seeing airports filling up with people. I know there are precautions in place, temperature checks and screenings at airports, but what is your overall sense of just like the, safety or lack of safety in air travel?
Hard to say right now, and I'm going to be very clear. It's hard to say. People want to travel, and people are going to travel. Whether it's the safest thing, well, you're going to be in crowds, but you've got to wear a mask. You're going to be in crowds. Even with a mask, you want to stay 6 feet apart. Is it the safest thing? I'm not sure. In fact, I think we're all sure that it's not the safest. But people need to do that and want to do that and have to do that. If they're going to travel, got to take every precaution. And I know the airlines are doing the best they can. They're doing deep cleaning after every flight. They're separating people, in some cases with plexiglass. They're keeping people apart every other row in some cases. But we are a mobile society. We're a group of people that is used to travel and needs to travel. I think that most of all of the companies and organizations understand to limit travel as best they can, but in some cases, travel is necessary. So if you ask me, is it 100% safe? Nothing is 100% safe anymore, but we can mitigate the dangers by doing what we need to do. It makes me very uncomfortable to go down to some places and see people with masks below their nose, or no mask at all, or kids in large groups hanging out together, sitting around doing what kids do. It's a tough time.
One thing I think people should be aware of is that you don't have to have a fever or a cough to be the symptoms of COVID. It could be very mild symptoms. You could have just a little runny nose, a little scratchy throat. Sometimes people might think it's allergies, and then it turns out not to be allergies. It's COVID. So people should be very aware of that, especially when they're going into larger crowds or when they're going to a family member's house. If you have any type of symptoms at all, little scratchy throat or a little stuffy nose, stay home until you can get tested.
Now, I know, we're all well aware of the transfer from droplets and sort of interacting with people. What about, transfer? What do we know as far as like things on surfaces? Like, is there any risk to dropping off gifts if, you think, even if you don't think you might have the virus, but, it's a possibility. Is it, are there certain like dangers of, giving a niece a teddy bear, or giving somebody homemade cookies, or just any other kind of, bottle of wine? Is there any chance of sort of transfer from those kind of objects to one another as far as, gift giving?
Well, I have been following the guidelines of the Department of Public Health.
Mm-hmm.
I asked them about that just today.
Oh.
And they said at this point in time, there are no guidelines whatsoever. They said there may be in the future, but at this point in time, they have no guidelines and they're not making any recommendations. Is there a risk? Well, we have been telling people for a long time to clean surfaces and to disinfect and to be careful. But I don't think we know. I really don't think we know everything about the spread of this virus, even though it's been 10 months or more. So I can't give you an answer. Susan?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think one thing that we do know is that the riskiest behavior is coming in close contact with someone who has symptoms or who has COVID. So that's why it's so important to try to stay that 6 feet back and try to limit the time frame that you are within 6 feet of someone, because that is the riskiest behavior, and that's what we do know. And I think another important thing is the hand washing. So when we do touch things like gifts, or we're out in a store touching other things in a store, that's why it is so important to wash our hands often.
Now, I wanted to ask a couple of questions about, and then I know we're probably going to get the sense of maybe every answer is going to be kind of the same, which is fine, because I think we all sort of know the basics, which is, the distance and the mask wearing and everything. But I do think just because there are such importance to, people's traditions this time of year, just to hit on them, even if we kind of feel like we're repeating ourselves. So one of the things, obviously, is as we enter the holiday season, it's, people really want to go to church services, or they want to go to temple for Hanukkah services. What's your, general advice around that? Is there better ways to do it? Maybe try to keep everything outside. I mean, as people, it's very important for people to, engage in these activities. So, again, with the risk of repeating ourselves, what would you say about, those type of activities?
Well, the Commonwealth, go ahead.
Most religious organizations right now have been totally remote, and we all understand that. There have been so many orders by our governor and the Department of Public Health about large groups being together, even small groups being together inside in buildings without proper ventilation, or even with good ventilation. But most churches, most synagogues, and I'm sure most mosques, they're all doing the same thing, and that is being remote. It's very difficult. This is very difficult situation. We're coming up on Christmas, the most important holiday for the Christian world. people want to be able to celebrate their religion and celebrate the holiday. And for them not to be in a church because of the restriction in numbers and the worry and the fear and the danger of being together is very difficult. So what I think is what most religious organizations, churches, whatever, they're being remote, and they're doing a good job on being remote. Our clergymen are just doing a wonderful job. They understand how difficult it is. We've got some wonderful clergymen, and they understand, and they're as hurting as much as we are, and they're doing the best job as they can to do it remote. But I understand it's still remote, and there's still a danger with large crowds. So I'm not going to say that you got to do those things. I'm just going to repeat, as you said, we need to be careful.
In the Commonwealth has sector-specific standards. So there are standards for religious organizations, and it's important that each organization knows those standards and adheres to them to keep people safe. So we have sector-specific standards for all kinds of sectors. So, for example, retail is sector-specific standards. So it's important that we're aware of what is required. Each sector is aware of what is required, and they stick to those standards. And people, if they're curious, the public wants to know, they can go to the DPH website, and all of the standards are on the website for each sector. And one other thing people should be aware of is the gathering rule. So it's indoors is 10 people, no more than 10 people, and outdoors no more than 25.
Now, obviously, Burlington, is kind of known as a destination for shopping, with the Burlington Mall and Kohl's and other locations. What are the guidelines right now in place as far as retail? Are you working as the Board of Health with the different stores to kind of ensure that they are keeping people spaced apart and as safe as possible?
Yes, so we've been doing that all along with all of the sectors, retail being one of them. So we're complaint based. We take complaints. So if someone sees something, they can email the Board of Health or call us, email us at boh@burlington.org. They see something that they don't think is right, and we will look into, we do look into all of the complaints that we get.
And we do get a lot of complaints. Everyone is investigated, whether it be a restaurant, a cafe, whether it be a gym. We've got quite a few of those. Retail institutions, supermarkets, and the gambit of every type of complaint you could think of. People not wearing masks, too many people in a building, gyms not adhering to the guidelines that change all the time. You need to be up on this. You need to be aware and to look at the changes that take place that come out of Boston. You gotta be well aware. Today at 3:00 we have another teleconference, twice a week or more, and we have to be on all of those meetings, and whether they remote or whatever, to make sure that we're following what the Commonwealth is advising us to do.
One quick thing. I don't know if you know. I know that the Burlington Mall has been sort of making some, different arrangements as far as photos with Santa goes. Was that something that you worked with them on, or is that something completely internal to them? Do you know what the procedures are as far as that goes?
So I did just talk to them a couple of days ago about this, and the procedure is going to be 6 feet away. So they're going to have a bench or table 6 feet away from Santa. Santa's going to be in the background. So no children are going to be approaching Santa. They're going to sit on the bench, and that's how they get their picture taken with Santa in the background. And it's going to be by appointment only, so that we don't have too many people waiting in line in crowds. So You will make an appointment with Santa at a certain time, and then the distance is always 6 feet away.
Okay, great. And the last thing I was just wanting to know about, we talked about, advising people not to travel, not to gather over the holidays, but, as far as, the students in our school system, what kind of guidelines, if they do travel out of state, would you like to see them, have to adhere to when they return before maybe coming back into a school building?
Well, we're already, go ahead, Susan.
Well, they have to adhere to the travel restrictions. So, and that
Okay.
is they need to get a negative test or quarantine for 14 days.
And we've seen they're going to close the schools a week after Thanksgiving. That may help somewhat. But they have to follow the travel restrictions, as just to reiterate that. Even Santa Claus has to stay in a bubble when he comes back from the North Pole. I think that says it all.
Yep. Can't go around can't be hanging around the elves. All right. Well, I really appreciate you both taking some time to talk about all this, and I also very much hope that you guys, I know you've been very busy, so I hope you get at least some time off during this holiday season and can, spend some time with your immediate families and enjoy the holidays.
Well, let me just say something in closing. If you've got a question, call the Board of Health. If you have a complaint, call the Board of Health. We've made a couple of sort of fun comments in closing, but it's a very serious situation. If you're not sure and you want good information, pick up the phone to any board member, to our Director of Public Health, but call the Board of Health. We're happy to hear from people within our community.
Excellent. Well, once again, thank you very much, and happy holidays.
Happy
You
holidays.
too. Thank you, Rich.
So there you have a look at how to stay healthy and safe this holiday season. We'll go now to my discussion with Burlington Economic Development Director Melisa Tintocalis about what businesses are doing to help people stay safe as they prepare for the holidays. Let's check it out. And I'm now joined by Burlington Economic Development Director Melisa Tintocalis, and we are here in our virtual studio, separated 6 feet apart for proper social distancing. Melisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Rich. Thanks for having me.
And I just wanted to start off kind of big picture. Obviously Burlington is a known destination for the holiday season, both with, the mall, the other retailers, and obviously our restaurants. So, just how much of an impact does, this season sort of have for, incoming taxes and just Burlington finances?
Yeah, I mean, in general, if you kind of zoom back for a little bit here, the retail, restaurant, hospitality component of, those industries make up about 52% of kind of the jobs in Burlington. And, those have been the hardest hit with the pandemic and the related shutdowns. So how it affects, us in kind of where we're looking at the taxes generated from these, especially the hotel and meals tax, they're down about 50%. And, this retail season is, a component of that, but we don't really have a strong sense of what that impact will be on the tax receipts for those hotel and meals taxes just yet. We're projecting, as we have been in the past, a conservative revenue budgeting approach, but we're just kind of being cautious, kind of looking forward to that. And my office, economic development office, is working to support our restaurants and our retail, but there are only kind of limited things we can do.
Right, because a lot of things come down from the state level.
Correct. In terms of some of those restrictions and how we, need to operate to be safe, have been led by the state, and we kind of take our cues from there. But, in terms of, things that, we try to help facilitate, I know in Burlington, for example, some communities have, permits for Black Friday. We don't have that. You can, if you want to stay open, and have hours of operation beyond that, you're welcome to do that. You're invited to do that. And we're trying to hope and support our businesses in that way. I think also, we're trying to encourage them to have, the curbside pickup if that's helpful for folks. And, we're trying to just, work with the creativity that's out there in the business community to support that during, particularly this time, kind of the retail season, holiday season.
Yeah, and businesses that are doing sort of different options as far as like curbside or local delivery. I don't know exactly what the possibilities are, but have you heard of any sort of like kind of creative initiatives going on?
Yeah, I think what we've seen mostly, again, I'll say it more generally speaking, as opposed to calling out specific businesses, but I think we've seen our small to mid-sized business being the ones who have been able to pivot with technology and use their app or software service that they usually use for transactions in a store, and that's been able to pivot to use for better takeout or better delivery service. So that's been helpful for those smaller food service or kind of businesses. And the larger retail, we've also set up different kind of parking situations so that folks can kind of drive by, pick up, and move on if they need to, kind of contactless service. So we've been able to permit those. Over the summer, as you've probably seen, there was a lot of outdoor seating. And I think their real concern is, coming into the winter months as it gets cold for restaurants.
Yeah.
It's kind of been one of those things. It's going to be really challenging for the restaurants because that outdoor seating that allowed for, more tables to be out there will have to be pruned back just given the weather.
Yeah, and I know that outdoor seating has been extended. Usually, I think it ended November 1st.
Correct.
But I remember, at a recent Board of Selectmen meeting, I believe it was, some ideas were sort of floated of like tenting or like sort of igloo things. So there are ways to sort of try to increase sort of the footprint of restaurants even when it gets cold, just to allow for that space. Are you hearing people taking advantage of those kind of options?
Yeah, I know one business, I think is Tavern on the Square, was exploring the igloo idea. And that is essentially these clear igloos that you can have, a grouping of 6 folks. It would be set outdoors. We worked with our fire department to see how we could, heat those appropriately. But at the same time, those are still kind of pricey, just the units themselves.
Sure. So
they're not for everyone. And they do help, kind of create more of an ambiance and attract folks in. But we haven't seen a real kind of snowball effect with that one. I think what we're trying to do with that is just encourage people to, still visit their restaurants, but maybe on some of the evenings where there's fewer people, Friday and Saturday nights, lots of reservations, sure. And, it can get packed. And with the closures by 9:30, by, what the state has requested, it makes those evenings a little more tight. So if, people are out there, Burlington residents are out there and want to support our businesses, maybe looking at some alternative nights to go out would be helpful, and there would be fewer people out. That's kind of one thing we were thinking about, is kind of, a soft measure that we can all do.
Yeah, sure. So as we're, getting together with family and friends for the holidays, maybe think of it, a nice Tuesday evening.
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
necessarily having it to, restricted just to the weekends.
Exactly.
Spread it out a little bit.
Yeah. But I'm hopeful that, we've talked to the Massachusetts Restaurant Association and just try to be plugged into kind of the bigger trends. There is a concern that, the winter months will be harder just because, people are going to want to stay in. There'll be, as, maybe cases rise, people will be a little bit more cautious for going out. But the restaurants, I know you'll have the Board of Health on your show as well. My reports from the Board of Health have been really positive, and people are really taking this seriously, and they're being really safe with how they're approaching, food service and, masks, gloves. It's been, in that sense, really positive.
Right, so people are taking the necessary measures. I remember we had somebody, a restaurant manager, I think from Tuscan Kitchen in for a show over the summer, and he sort of explained it like, restaurants are pretty primed for these measures because they've always had safety measures in place. Even before the pandemic, they were obviously, working with food, so they, have a lot of these sort of protocols already set.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think that's also what the Restaurant Association says. It's an industry that's been hyper regulated over time just for, public safety. And so they're very attuned to that, and they can accommodate that very quickly, and they're very conscientious to, the requests, not only by the state, but, just, what will make a customer feel comfortable and safe so that they come back too.
Right.
So, yeah, so I've seen that, and that's been pretty positive.
Now, obviously, one of the big locales in Burlington is the mall. I'm guessing maybe things are still kind of in the works, but do you know are there changes being made there as far as, trying to keep people distanced or, limit the number of people in there or anything, in that regard going on at the mall?
Yeah, no, the mall is, just such a destination. I think we have, it's 1.6 million square feet of retail space total there. Wow. So it's pretty large in and of itself. The mall itself has been working to still program some events that are safe inside the mall to attract some people. They've also been on pause with some of their construction. I don't know if your viewers out there have seen that.
Yeah,
have you talked about that a little bit on the show?
We did a whole thing about the village, before the pandemic started.
Right.
When it was, everything was just kind of moving ahead, fair, in a nice clip.
Right.
I was excited about Shake Shack getting here, but I don't know exactly where things stand at this moment.
Yeah, no, Shake Shack and Sweet Greens, they're still moving along, I think, so as tenants of the space. And then Simon, they're, responsible for some of the common area space. And they put some of their improvements on hold, I think, hoping to kind of get through some of the worst of the pandemic. So that has definitely slowed things down. And I think maybe we talked about maybe doing another show specifically on the mall that we can kind of dive into some of those, which tenants are moving, which are kind of the new ones coming in. So, because we know we've had a couple now move out. Some of them just, was it related to the pandemic? Some of them just based on their, kind of business model that needed more traffic in general. Yeah. That just said, they might opt to, not renew their lease. But I would say overall they're managing, and people again are being really safe and trying to, make sure that they're following the rules.
Do they have anything set up there for like directing people in certain ways?
They've had signage out. They've had stations for cleaning, washing, or sanitizing your hands. They've encouraged people to wear masks all throughout the the mall corridors. So those are some of the basic things. And then they've done a good job working with their food tenants so that they've been able to have some parking that's dedicated to like Frank Pepe's or Nordstrom to have some retail pickup. So they've been able to accommodate that as well. They've also had the outdoor seating, tried to kind of make the sidewalks a little bit more outdoor friendly for when it was nice. But I think they've been trying to work with individual tenant needs because there's so many of them there in the mall, and they all have their own kind of demands and what's appropriate for them. So I think they've been doing a good job of trying to really balance that.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Like some of the
places are things people could go online and get their stuff, but some of the, you kind of want to see it in person or, try it on or check out sizes and stuff. Any advice for people who are looking to come to the mall? I mean, I'm just thinking along the lines of, somebody like me who finds themselves perennially at the mall and on December 24th, like maybe space out your shopping a little bit better.
Exactly, Rich. Well, I mean, I think that's been kind of a theme that we've all heard about, right? Just given like some of the not only concerns around safety, but just general delays of, different products and stuff. So that like the idea is to kind of get an earlier start. We've heard in different stores that Black Friday hasn't just been one day, but it's been, extended over the week and different maybe kind of features or spotlights to the different like kind of Black Friday week almost to get people encouraged to also, I think ahead for their shopping, for their gifts and everything. So they get them in early, see what's there so that the kind of availability, is not jammed up at the very end and they're having trouble kind of producing those products for, guests that are coming in. So coming in early is a good idea. Maybe, Rich, not waiting till the 24th. That's definitely it. I mean, I think also, it's going to be tempting to do a lot of stuff online. I really feel like, whether if you can and you're able to and you feel comfortable with it, coming out and, still supporting your businesses has been, something that, we encourage if you feel like you can do that. So I really, support that.
Yeah. And any other sort of, measures being taken at the municipal level to sort of, help businesses during, the holiday season, but also just in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's the holiday season and there's like only, certain interventions that the local government can do with some of that. I think if we kind of, on a macro level, what we've looked at is some of the transitions in industry. So as we've said that we've seen a little bit more unemployment in hospitality and some of the restaurants. So what we tried to do with some funding from the federal government was provide a workforce grant to if there's folks out there who are Burlington residents and they're interested in pivoting or doing a career change into life sciences or healthcare field, we're providing essentially a grant for entry-level education and training in that. I can give you more information on that, Rich, but that's one thing that we're trying to do just kind of on a local level to support residents and the workforce.
Okay, so that if somebody is perhaps lost their job or is feeling underemployed, they can take advantage of kind of a new opportunity in an emerging field.
Yeah,
that's really growing in this area quite a bit.
Exactly. I mean, I think the pandemic has been so uneven in how it's impacted different industries. Life sciences, additive manufacturing, both strong clusters in our area. Have actually seen growth. So, whether it's private sector investment, that we've seen, whether it's, related to COVID or other treatments, we've seen an uptick in investment and there's still an interest in expansion. So we've seen new tenants come to the area. In life sciences. We've also, in additive manufacturing, that 3D manufacturing industry is really a tiny cluster that has a lot of potential for growth here. And as different industries, whether it's automotive or aerospace, look for options for kind of local production, 3D manufacturing's been more interesting to folks because it is still an investment in kind of the setup, but then you can control kind of the location of where things are made, and that helps as you can see with with the supply chain disruptions that have gone on globally with the pandemic. So people have looked to some more local options or domestic options. So those have been two industries that have been actually doing quite well in terms of positive growth. And, we're trying to look at how we can, nurture that and help folks, shift from things that, are changing and disrupted, and to support them for areas that have kind of some long-term growth in them as well. So that's one thing we're trying to do. But so if people are interested in that,
Yeah, a little bit of a pivot from the
yeah,
survey,
a little bit, yeah.
I think it works out. Let's we're all just about getting the information out to people.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, economic development has that breadth of everything, and that I think that's always been kind of hard to wrap your brain around sometimes, because it's everything from the small supportive stuff that you're working on for small businesses to kind of some of the macro things, and maybe job workforce training that we've been doing for folks who've been unemployed or looking for new options.
Right. And I guess just last thing is, so I know you're in touch with a lot of the local businesses and restaurants. I just wanted to end with just sort of, if people are maybe hesitant to go shopping or go out to eat, just your sense of just the dedication of Burlington businesses to making sure that it's a safe experience for people during this time.
Yeah, I feel like I am quite confident in reassuring people that our Board of Health has been on top of administering guidelines from the state. Our businesses have been very much conscientious about implementing those. Everything from, definitely wearing their PPE to hand sanitation to clearly marking, everything from taping simple, markings on the ground to visual cues, signs above, reminders. They have, in different stores, they have folks, just specifically tending to the front door, helping wipe down carts, helping just keep things clean as possible. And when people are taking care of their own kind of personal hygiene, masks, gloves, washing their hands, I think that's all, reducing the risk. And I feel like, when you're out there, we're all kind of working together to make sure we keep safe. So I've been really encouraged by what I've seen out there.
Well, very good to hear. Mm-hmm. I'm glad. And I really appreciate you taking some time and coming in and talking to us. And I hope you have a happy holiday season.
Thank you, Rich. Same to you. I appreciate it.
The holidays are a time of giving and charity, and to find out how you can help those in need, we go now to my conversation with People Helping People's Judy Walsh. Let's check it out.
All right, I am now joined by Judy Walsh from People Helping People. Judy, thank you for taking some time and coming in to talk with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a very busy time of year for us.
I imagine that it is. So just kind of in general, since all this, the pandemic started and things shut down, what kind of, increases has People Helping People seen as far as, people needing your support and services?
Well, I know at the pantry, I believe we had a 40% increase in clients coming through the pantry. Of course, and then we had to change our whole procedure for how we run the pantry.
Sure.
We had a great number of families that did not just use the pantry, but they also used the lunch program that we started to provide as soon as schools were, the children stopped going to school. And that ran right through the summer. But now there is a program going on that through the federal government, I believe, that the children get free lunch. So that's a program that we will not have to do. Usually we do it during February, April vacation and in the summer. And right now I believe it runs through the end of June. So that will give us a little bit of a respite during the spring months.
Okay.
But right now, this coming Sunday, we're having our Thanksgiving dinner distribution. And we have to run that quite differently again this year because of COVID. And we're going to do it right at the pantry, a drive-up procedure, and we're using the hall at St. Mark's Church, which is right where the pantry is located, to do all the sorting and preparing for the meal. Usually we have it right at the Congregational Church, right by Simon's Park, but the clients can't come in. So right now we have 174 families, and I believe 10 families given to us by the Senior Center. So about 184 families that we'll be providing Thanksgiving dinner for this year.
And I'm guessing that's an increase over
That
last
is
year.
a definite increase. Last year was between 140 and 150. And some people have said since they're not having a lot of family, they really don't need a big dinner. But we do have a lot of turkey breasts for just a 1 or 2 person family, so they don't need to get the whole turkey. But we have fresh vegetables, we have pie. The Boy Scouts will be at Shaw's this Saturday if you're down shopping at Shaw's. They have pies for $5, so be helpful and donate a pie to the Boy Scouts that'll be there. They're also accepting monetary donations. We figure we need 200 pies because we have 5 families of 8, so 1 pie won't really feed a family of 8.
Right. And now, I mean, looking more ahead towards the, December holidays, Christmas and Hanukkah, are you expecting to have, more of a need this year than in previous times?
We are. We're seeing a lot of new families. This is my 9th year of running the holiday program, so that I know a lot of the names. They're quite familiar to me, but there's a lot of new families, and they have 4 and 5 children. So we still have some of the forms that go out to the families at the pantry haven't been turned in yet, but we have 78 families and 184 children that we'll be providing gifts for. And we're giving each child 4 basic needs: underwear, sweatshirt, pajamas, and shoes. We added shoes this year because a lot of the families use that for a regular wish, and we felt that that was really a basic necessity. Then they are getting hats and gloves, they get books, and then they get 3 wishes up to about $40 each. So they get 9 gifts. Normally Oracle does a big generic toy drive for us. They're not in their building this year.
Yeah.
So I do have a Daisy Troop and a Brownie Troop. They're going to do a collection at Francis Wyman for some generic toys. So, and some other people said they would try and do a collection for us, so which is a big help. We still are having the wish tree at the mall.
Right.
That's going to run from November 27th, the day after Thanksgiving, until December 13th, from 11 to 7 each day, except for Sundays is 12 to 7. And it's going to be there's going to be a plastic shield in front of the volunteers who sit and man the table. There's going to be hardly any contact. We're going to have the ornaments already pre-printed, which usually the volunteers have to write them and deal with the customer. So we're trying to make it as safe as possible for all of our volunteers. And we have a lot of individuals that are also adopting children, a whole family of children. I just had a woman call me today. She's going to take 4 children. The schools, the elementary schools, are all adopting families. So that's been a big help, taking up the slack from businesses that aren't able to help us this year.
So it's good to see that people are stepping up. I want to get more into that in a second, but first, let's just kind of back up a little bit in case
Sure.
somebody's watching and they're not really sure what the Wish Tree is. Talk about how the program works.
All right, the Wish Tree started way back in the 1980s, actually, as Burlington Santa, and then it just became the Wish Tree. Actually, when I first started, we only gave out 2 gifts. It was a much smaller program. We had maybe 20 families, so it was fairly basic. But the Wish Tree program, the pantry clients, their children, we try to make sure that they have a happy holiday, no matter what religion they are or what their background and so forth. So this has been going on since the 1980s, and we do provide different gifts for them. We try to also give the families a grocery gift card so that the family has something extra. But we have had the table at the mall really since the 1980s. I think that's where it started more. I don't think the businesses were involved. The churches were and they still are. But every church has had to do something different because they're not all open as well. So from Sign Up Genius and putting things on their websites, people are able to access gifts that the children have requested.
Right.
And usually we tell the age of the child, the sex of the child, and their wish. So it's in the size that they may need. So everything is very clear and easy to follow.
Right, so people can basically just kind of come in, see what the wish is, say, I will fulfill this wish.
Right.
And I'll go.
And
you
when
know,
they come
right
back,
here in the
right,
mall
they
anyway.
take the card, they can go across the street to Kohl's, they can go to Target, wherever they'd like to shop, and just, they need to return the gift by December 13th, when the wish tree closes at the mall. We are also having a drop-off spot at the police department.
Okay.
So there'll be bins at the police department from November 27th through December 13th for people to drop a gift there, and if they don't want to go back to the mall. Let's say they shop at Target, they can then just drop it at the police station. And there will be bins there. They know, they were very excited to help us out this year.
I'm sure they were. So you kind of made mention of it, you know, I know helping people gets a lot of assistance from different businesses in town, but, you know, businesses have been hit hard, and some of them, you know, are just not even open, or they're
Right.
full remote. What kind of impact has that had on kind of how you're operating this year?
Actually, some of the businesses have continued to help us. For example, Erling Construction, though they are in their building, and they still are giving us 50 pounds of squash for Thanksgiving, 25 turkey breasts. They also made a monetary donation.
Okay.
So, but we've been able to apply for some grants. A gentleman from Town Fair Tire in Billerica said, can you fill out this form? And this was during the lunch program. And so I filled out the form, and they gave us $1,000. And just recently, for Thanksgiving, without filling anything out, they sent us another 1,000. So actually, there's a banner that just got put up by the rec department in the center, thanking everyone for their support. We didn't want to just thank Burlington, because we've had companies from out of town even make donations to us. So we've had from banks, individuals, someone gave us some money from their IRA account. And it's amazing how some people every single month step up and give the same amount of donation, individuals right here in town. And we also get a lot of in-memory donations. Ron McKenzie, who just passed away, he was very instrumental in incorporating our organization. He was the lawyer that incorporated us. And so he was very involved, I guess, in the past with people helping people. So a lot of donations have come in his memory. So we get that every once in a while as well. But believe it or not, quite a few, we still have some companies in town that, even though they're not in their buildings, they have supported us in the past, and they still do.
Well, that's very good to hear. And as far as, you know, people volunteering, I know you've done different food drives. Are you seeing like a good sort of a community reaction to helping people in need during, you know,
Actually,
what is a
our
difficult
August
time?
food drive, we were shocked at how many people came by. Not so many in September, so we had thought, oh, September will even be better. We still had a good turnout. This past Saturday, on the 7th, we had a great food drive, because normally the day before our Thanksgiving distribution, we collect from the churches. We get the basics, the six basics: cranberry sauce, stuffing mix, canned corn, cornbread mix, mayonnaise, and chicken broth. So the churches weren't able to do that. So we did a food drive just for those 6 items. And we really got almost enough that we won't have to go out and purchase anything.
Excellent.
To feed the 184 or so families. We're still short on mayonnaise, I believe, and cornbread mix. But we have a donation bin right out in front of the pantry. And this weekend, they got quite a bit of food, more of those 6 items, and they're hoping this week when they do the sort, they'll get even more. And the Greater Boston Food Bank has been a great asset to us.
Absolutely.
We just got 1,600 pounds of squash today
It's a lot of squash.
without cost, which we normally would buy for Thanksgiving. We got, I forget how many pounds of potatoes, so every person who comes on Sunday will get a 5-pound bag of potatoes. I believe they're getting a 5-pound bag of onions. They will get fresh string beans, so that, you know, and a lot of this is all coming from the Greater Boston Food Bank. And I think last week we got 11,000 pounds from them of food. So, and at a very minimal cost, because they're getting a lot of grant money and they're passing it on to the food banks.
So there is a lot of help out there for people
There
who
is a
need it.
lot of help, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but right now it's being extremely helpful to us as an organization as well.
Well, that's good, and I'm glad, having the opportunity to have you in here to let people know that, if they are sort of struggling, that their, assistance is available if
Right.
they need it.
There's many people who really shouldn't feel bad about coming to the pantry. We have some people that just need to come for a few months, and some people just struggle continually. It's not an embarrassment. There's many people that we would still like to reach within town that we know would qualify to use our pantry, and we're more than willing to help them and come and get some very healthy food.
Right. And of course, there's probably people who never thought of themselves as going to the food pantry, but just because of everything being shut down, might find themselves in a difficult situation.
I know a couple
And
of people have said, I'm too embarrassed. I said, don't feel embarrassed. I said, we're here to help, and that's our main goal. Our mission is to help Burlington residents in need, and we just wish people that really are in need would come and use our services.
Yeah. Now, I know one of the big fundraisers that you have every year is made possible by a generous donation from the Capitol Grill. It's a $1,000 dinner for 6.
Yes, it is. I think with wine, with each entree, from appetizer to dessert, whatever. Yes, that runs through the end of December. Actually, on January 5th will be the drawing. You can get tickets at a whole bunch of flowers at the 2 Spencer Cleaners locations, and also if they go to our website, there's a email there that you can purchase tickets, and I believe it's sullivanfh@comcast.net, which is Sullivan Funeral Home. Janet Fitzgerald is on our board, and she is on the fundraising team,
Right.
so she has tickets as well.
And I know those are selling pretty well. And
We've been selling very nicely. We post on the residence page, so if you see anything on the residence page, feel free. They're $20 each, and the money goes towards Christmas or holiday meals in December. We don't actually give out a huge meal like we do it during Thanksgiving. What we do is we give gift cards according to the size of the family.
Okay.
And we also give gift cards to our seniors as gifts. That's a little bonus that we started about 3 years ago, because we feel that seniors sometimes get left out. So we've given them I believe it's $40 gift cards to Target, because they can get food, they can buy clothing. It's a
Right.
pretty basic place.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Good variety of things.
Yes.
So just in the last couple minutes that we have, we've talked a lot about different programs, but let's sort of, do an overview of all the different ways that people, can help. So we've got the wish tree.
Actually, we're going to post a Sign Up Genius page on the Residents Network, hopefully next week. Once we get everything out to all the companies and individuals who've requested families, we're going to post gifts on the Burlington Residents page. There'll be a Sign Up Genius, and it'll list from underwear, pajamas. It could be a toy. It could be a winter jacket. You can sign up there. Once the item is purchased, you can then either drop it at the police station, you can drop it at the mall, and that would be a big help. Some people, if they know where I live, they can drop it at my house. I'm not gonna put that.
Yeah, we don't need to give
No,
out
I
your
don't need
address
that.
on television.
You can also, if you want to adopt a child or something, we have a website called burlingtonphpwishtree@gmail.com, and people have contacted me via that email and have asked to adopt a child. So if you're interested in adopting a child, you can email me at burlingtonphpwishtree@gmail.com.
Okay. And then obviously people can drop food off at the food pantry.
Oh,
and-
definitely. The donation bin is open, and it's at the front of the parking lot from around 8:39 in the morning until dusk.
And if people wanted to volunteer with
People Helping People?
If they go to our webpage, there's a place where you can sign up to volunteer. And usually the pantry people, if it's for the holiday program, they send me the email. Otherwise, if you want to volunteer at the pantry, they're always looking for new volunteers because some of our volunteers are getting a little older. We've been more cautious about having
Right.
people in the pantry. We only have a certain number at a time. Our goal is to find a bigger pantry at some point so that we can expand our services. But we're in a strategic planning phase right now. We just finished. And so we're hoping to broaden our scope in town, but it's going to be a year or so down the road.
Sure.
So something else to talk about in the future.
Oh, we'll definitely be covering that whatever it is that you guys do. I mean, People Helping People does so many good things in town. We're always so happy to have you guys come in and promote whatever it is that you're doing. So I really appreciate you, for the work that you do.
It's an extremely rewarding experience. I said last year we did have a company donate bikes, and a boy came in that was getting one of the bikes, and I said, I wish I had my camera film going because the expression and the excitement, it was like he had never had this before. And, it's so nice to, parents sometimes just give us hugs, not this year, but
Right.
They give us hugs because they're so grateful because they'll even tell us they wouldn't have a holiday if it wasn't for us.
Yeah. So
it makes it very rewarding.
Well, I appreciate all that you do, and I appreciate you coming in and taking some time today to talk to us about it.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and have a happy holiday season.
Same to you.
Thank you. So there you have it, a look at the holidays amidst the pandemic. I'd like to thank my guest health director, Susan Lumenello, Board of Health Chairman, Dr. Ed Weiner, Burlington Economic Development Director Melisa Tintocalis, and Judy Walsh of People Helping People. I'd also like to thank all of you for watching. I hope you have a healthy and safe holiday season, no matter how you celebrate, and a happy new year. We'll be back with a new episode in January of 2021, and we'll see you then.